Good evening. Welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't African, the Talk Think program that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American didn't find his way to America in the bottom of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous One, and tonight we're going to look at some realities through our own eyes, through our own thinking, through our own figuring things out, not from what somebody else tells us, but how we figure things out, how we look at things. And I just want to share some things with you in order to get you to see, you know, that life isn't hard, you guys. We make it hard by not using our minds. We refuse to use our minds and just think of like a baby would. You ever notice when a baby falls, he stands right back up. He's thinking, how can I stop falling? How can I move forward and walk? How can I go out and play with the rest of the kids? How can I play with my brothers? How can I play with my sisters? I'm tired of just sitting up here in a high chair, holding on to the couch. How do I get off and run down the stairs? How do I get off and jump off the porch? How do I run? How do I make it to the next step? That's what a baby who's learning to walk, that's how he thinks. Excuse me. His mind is always moving. Why? Because he's in a world where he knows or she knows that they're behind and they have to catch up with those people who are out there in front of them. Somewhere along the line, the African American lost that ability. And since we lost it, we don't even want it back. Matter of fact, it hurts us to the core if somebody brings it up, like I'm gonna do tonight. So this is just gonna be some simple. A 5-year-old can understand this, and I realize that many of you have been trained to not even think, and so some of the things I'm gonna say may be new. You may not have heard it before, but if you ever get a chance to think about it, you'll go, God damn, is that simple? Is that simple? So what are we going to do? Why I wanted to bring this subject up is this. Earlier in the week, there was a girl from the Congo who came over here and she climbed up the give me 1 second. Sorry about that. That was an important phone call. Please forgive me, but that'll be the last interruption. Um, so what I'm going to share tonight with you is going to be simple things, and this is the way we must think of things if we're going to survive here, because everybody knows, everybody who can see, and it's a lot of us who see it, it's not really looking too good for the African American at this time. So as I was saying, the girl came from the Congo and climbed up the Statue of Liberty. That's not the news. What we should be asking is, how can a woman come 5,000 miles across the water and protest a government, but she didn't do that at home? She come over here to protest, but you don't do that in Congo. That's not your job. That's not your place. But you know what the African American does? This woman is replacing the heritage that the people who called African Americans, they weren't called African Americans at that time. They were called Black and Negro, what those people did. So this woman comes over and try to bite off what you did, and you push her to the forefront. That's one of the reasons why we suffer. That woman wouldn't do that in the Congo. That woman wouldn't do that in Nigeria. That woman wouldn't do that in El Salvador. That woman wouldn't do that in Mexico. That woman wouldn't do that in England. They come here to do it because you let them do it and you say nothing about it. I'm talking about the people who are masquerading as African Americans now. They're seriously the indigenous people of America. They are America. I mean, and it's in your face every day. How we don't recognize it, I don't understand. And we'll get into that later because I'm starting to really see, because this stuff is too, it's too simple. So one of the reasons why that story about the girl climbing up the Statue of Liberty is no news, but I just want everybody to understand this is how people come to your country and just take over and start doing what they want to do because you have nothing to say as usual. I mean, you got a lot to say, on that LeBron trade to LA. You got a lot to say about that, but things that matter, things that affect the collective, you have nothing to say. Matter of fact, you get pissed off at somebody saying it. And then you'll pretend like you so confused you don't understand what I'm saying. That's how the African American gets down. So what I wanted to share was just some simple things that I want us to think about as we go forward. Okay. So this African American thing, they call you Africans. So we have to look at some realities and some common sense things. So when somebody tells you that they put your ancestors on a boat and sailed them 5,000 miles across the Atlantic, the first thing you should do is ask some questions. Find your nearest nurse. Everybody has a nurse in the family, and ask the nurse, auntie or uncle, how is it possible that somebody can get in the wooden ship, wind driven ship, no motors at this time, and be blown across the Atlantic, stuffed in the trunk of a ship, no fret, no air, can't have no lights on in there because there's no air in there, coming across the Atlantic, coming across those rough waters? What would their condition be when they got off the slave ship? Any nurse. I mean, when you do it, because even the nurses have been taught the same narrative we've been taught. That's how they got their degree. That's how you get your degree. That's what you're taught. But her training in nursing to see that she's been dealing with people who've been in hospital beds and they get sores and this sunlight coming through the windows, this air coming through the windows. How somebody coming across a ship across the Atlantic Ocean? And I would implore many of you to look at you can go on YouTube and just look at some ships crossing the Atlantic Ocean. You'll immediately change your mind. But ask a nurse that and watch what she says. Look at her face first, because she's going to be like, damn, it's impossible. 5,000 miles on a windblown ship during hurricane season. See, this is what we're taught. These are the spells that we're taught, and we pass them on, and we pass them on, and then instead of dropping it when you hear better news, you inculcate that story with the story of the people, indigenous people over here. Don't do that. You're causing confusion, and it's making it worse. So all you brothers who pump those foreign ideologies, please, you're doing your people a horrible service. Females too. So so I want to give you some numbers on this stuff so you can see how it's done and how we're just taken to the cleaners every time. And the people that's coming over here, they take advantage of us because our it's not naivety, because naive, how do you say that word? I don't know. This stuff is easily known. This is simple stuff, but this is what I mean about African Americans. We only do as we're told. The African American doesn't think. I'm not saying every single one. I'm saying about 98%, 97%. We don't think. Whatever boss tell us to do, that's what we do. Many of us don't like that, but that's the reality. Trump, this dude who's so-called the 45th, is telling your great-great-grandparents, great-great-grandkids what to do. And you say nothing about it. You let a girl come over here from the Congo and punk you like that? Really? And now you mad at me because I'm telling you? For real? So I want to share these numbers with you. Share these with the children, because the people who are, 30s and 40s, they've gotten on with their lives. They're doing something. They're not trying to make a change for the people that's coming behind them. So please, if you can, share this with the youth. So I just wanted to share some with you. So I want to show you some common sense things, and it I hope you can get this, because this is simple. Okay. So what I just did a port from Ghana, little spot in Ghana, to Miami, Florida, just to see how long it is. It's about 5,000 miles. It's 4,700 nautical miles. And nautical miles, okay, so so if you're traveling somewhere across the water, you're going to have some resistance, because there are going to be waves coming at you, slowing you down until you get over that wave. That's why you see boats bounce up in the water. So you have a ship with 500 people on it. This is the narrative they give us. This is the narrative that we pass on to our children, because we don't think about, hey, what are they telling us? They just tell us what they want us to know. We take what they say, and we repeat what they say. That's what an African American is. That's how an African American is trained. The African American doesn't think about what he's told or what she's told. They just uh Jesus is Lord, and we'll repeat that story for the rest of our lives. We won't even look at it. We won't even examine it. All we do is believe, and we become a part of the lie. So this just letting you know, this is how simple this stuff is. This is only going to be about a 45-minute broadcast, because it's this simple. So you see, it's 4,700 nautical miles from Ghana to Florida. And I just put Florida because Florida, the southeasternest point. I'm just trying to make it simple. Is probably a faster way by ship. I'm sure they got to the Caribbean first. I don't know. But this is the story that they told. But I want you to think about that and see if that's feasible. And remember, hurricane season. Hurricane season goes across the Atlantic every year. Really? I mean, do we think about that when we're telling our children this story? Because 9 times out of 10, they're probably saying, well, hey, what about the hurricane season? The college educated Negro, the Dr. Benz, the Dr. John Henry Clarks, doctors. These are doctors. These are highly intelligent scholars. This is what they teach our children. And we teach our children, and so on and so forth. So just keep that in mind. 4,700 nautical miles. Okay? Because I want to show you something, and you tell me what you would do. Don't tell me what somebody told you somebody else did. Don't tell me what the history books say. Tell me, as a species on this planet, what would you do? Birds fly to get to the from point A to point B. Every species on this planet works in tandem with the species of its kind to make life easier for them. The only species that doesn't do that is the African American. And I'm going to show you why. So this is a map of this is the Arctic Circle, and this is my contention, and it's just me just thinking. So when they give you the picture of the map, like the one I just showed you, the west coast of Africa and the east coast of the United States, that's the picture that somebody put in your mind. There's millions of different variations of what you can look at the world like. If you just constantly take somebody else's idea of what it is, their idea is going to what? Be your idea. Their words are going to be what? Your words. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just trying to make this as simple as I can. It may seem like that because a lot of this information is new to you. A lot of you. A lot of people already know it. So we know these people came from Europe. Okay? So here's England right here. You see it, UK right here. This is my contention. And if anybody wants to discuss it, you can reach me at indigenous64@gmail.com or hit me in the African Americans Ain't African inbox and we can discuss it. So remember, keep in mind 4,700 miles to come across and the Atlantic is ferocious. Plus, it's on the equator. So if the earth is constantly tilting back and forth, what do you think is going on at the equator? Why do you think them hurricanes come across like that? Do you think there's a smooth sail across the Atlantic? And now you locked up pissing and shitting on each other coming across the Atlantic? For real, cuz? So let's look at it another way. Let's look at it at a more practical way. Okay? This right here is England, UK, Scotland, where that remember. Over here it used to be called New Scotland. Because I want you to think of some things instead of just always believing what somebody else say. So this point right here, this is the northern part of Scotland. From Scotland, this right here is a place called the Faroe Islands. You see them, the Faroe Islands. From Scotland to the Faroe Islands is about 100 miles, 85 to 100 miles. Keep 4,700 in your mind, okay? Because these are the tales you hear the people called Vikings. I know many of us heard of that. If you heard of the pro football team called the Minnesota Vikings, they're paying homage to these people. Those people came over here in this area. Norway, Sweden, Finland, Russia, Iceland. Okay, so my contention, from Scotland to Iceland is 200 miles, roughly 200 miles. Remember, keep 4,700 in your mind. So that's 200 miles from there to there. And they say they came across boats. And remember, this is the Arctic Circle right here. This blue line that you see right here, that's the Arctic Circle. So whenever you have to remember, up here, it's cold. The water has ice in it. You've heard of the Titanic. And what may be cold to you is not cold to other people. You have icebergs. You have the water is slowed down because it's cold. You can come across there. You ain't have no problems. And you down there at the equator, the water, it's all melted. It's going crazy down there. Hurricanes, everything's going across. And you believe that they navigated that and they thought the world was flat? Or really? You believe that because somebody told you that. So from Iceland to Greenland, is that another 100 miles? So when you get to the coastal places on your boat, because they weren't ships that they told you, all you had to do was sail along the coastline like they do the cruises. If you go from Los Angeles down to wherever in Mexico, you just right off the coast. You're not going way out in the ocean. All you do is go around the coast and go across here, and then right here is Canada. This is Newfoundland over here. So how many miles do you think that is? 600 miles as compared to 4,700? You see why we are like we are now? Because Stevie Wonder told us, when you believe in things you don't understand what? And you got all these black men. And I say black because black, when you look at black, if I blacked out some words in a poem you was writing, you wouldn't be able to understand the poem. That's what black means, making it not relevant. Look up the word black. Look up the etymology of the word black. See, they give you definitions. The Spanish have a definition. The English have a definition. The Danes have a definition. The Polish have a definition. The Germans have a definition. The Ukrainians have a definition. They're all similar, but that's what makes them their own autonomous group of people. They don't go by what other people say. They figure it out on their own. They tell you, and you just got the English version. You didn't get the French and Spanish and Portuguese version. Because if you look at the word American, that's how the English say it. The French say American. What does American mean? Am means soul, Rican, rich, rich soul people. That's who they're describing when they're talking about the African Americans over here. But we're always looking 5,000 miles across the Atlantic for our people. And that sister who climbed that Statue of Liberty, she doesn't claim you, but you will turn your back on your mamas and pick her up. Okay? Now, I know a lot of y'all, why are you talking like that? Shh, please. I mean, it's Friday night. I'm sure there's something you can do. Because this is how our children are brought up. This is the craziness that our children are brought up in because the adults don't teach them shit. Just clowning, yazzabozzing all day long. And these are the so-called your scholars. This is how they train you so you can be in somebody's trap. And you love them, don't you? So let's take a closer look at how this is done. Okay. So, like I said, so the Faroe Islands to Scotland is 200 miles. The Faroe Islands are the islands that's in the middle of Scotland and Iceland. So it's 200 miles. To Iceland is 280 miles. So you got 480 miles right there. We keep 4,700 miles in your head. This is what I'm saying. This is when we let other people teach us. This is when you get up in the morning and send your children off to other people to have their brains fried. Then you put on the back of your car, my child is a honor student at George Washington Elementary School. This is where we are, the African American is. So when you say, oh, we got to unite, that's why we don't support our own people. That's why we go support everybody else and don't support each other, because this is going on in our head. So from Scotland to Iceland is 280 miles, 480 miles. Because, I'm sorry, that's 200 miles. So to get from Scotland to Iceland is 480 miles. Then to get from Iceland to Greenland, so it tells you that it's 756 miles. But look how far you got to go into. This is the airport. I couldn't get nothing, find nothing on the seas, nautical stuff. So if anybody can get that information, please share it, post it up in the group, because what we're just trying to do is get people to think, you guys. I mean, it's something that we don't do. We really don't do. We really don't even, over 90% of it that had never even had a thought in our lives because we're used to taking orders. See, that's what happens when somebody makes up your history, makes up who you are. You didn't do it. They did it. So whenever you make up a person, because I remember the African American is a clone of the Black American. The Black American is a clone of the Negro. The Negro is a clone of the colored. See how you see how your identity changes every generation? That's to confuse up the the generations now. That's to confuse them up with the generations that came before them. That's what that's done for. And we cool with it. We mad if somebody bring it to our attention. And all it's doing is helping us. That's how twisted up we are. So Iceland and Greenland is 756 miles. So this is where the thinking comes in. So you already know that. So if these people are traveling, you going like this, they're getting to Iceland and they're on boat. Where are they leaving from? Coming right across here. So now what was 756 miles, because this is to airports. And we know back then there weren't any planes. So this is with the airport. So now we're just going to take another little a simple trip across there, this straight right here. But and the water's coming down right here. So all you got to do is just slide on down there and you in Greenland. Like I say, hug the coast, come up to this way, and you come down this way. Or come down this straight, because this is Newfoundland right here. So I just want to show you a simpler way, if you're thinking, how that can be done instead of coming across the Atlantic Ocean. Here's a comparison up here. Well, it's not up here, but here's Canada right here. Canada is closer to England than Ghana is to Florida. Why would they come into somebody's country and just start kidnapping their kids, and the people on the mainland didn't do nothing? The chief sold to Africans. Really? These people didn't have any mothers. They didn't have any people who loved them. These are the stories they tell us. And for some reason, we don't even come up with a rebuttal. We just believe whatever they tell us. And then try to talk and try to make it seem like what we're saying makes sense. And all you do is, like Neely Fuller said, cause confusion. And that's what we have a lot in the African American community. Agents of confusion. You might love them. They may be doing it to make their money, but you see what happened to the people with money. So we have to come up with our own currency. I know some of you, that pisses some of you guys off, but that's going to be the reality of it, because they're trying to bring you to your knees now. And I know you see it. For those of you who can see, I know you see it. For those of you who can't see, keep your head up. So this is what I mean about We're not Africans. We're not Africans. That's a Roman term. That's an Italian term. That's a name that they concocted up to put on and slap on the people. The people over in Africa don't call themselves Africans. They let you know what country or nation they're from, who their people are. The African Americans let people, when you ask African American, do this. Ask an African American, what part of Africa are you from? Remember, don't look at don't listen to their words. Look at their face because they're going to put it on their face first. Ask any African American, what part of Africa did your great 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 grandmama come from? And watch that dumb look on their face. Huh? Rut-row. All they're doing is repeating what somebody have told them, and that's gotten us nowhere. Nowhere. And we keep on and now just average. I got a letter from a guy today. Not a letter, but an email from a guy today, and he was like, "Man, I cussed you out 4 years ago. I cussed you out, and now, wow, you're absolutely right." I'm like, "Yeah, that's about as long as it takes, about 3 or 4 years." Because we've been, because I'm not the type of teacher that coddle, oh, the poor baby. No, I'm not that type because we know. All you have to do is go up to the American Indian Museum up in Washington D.C. All you have to do is just easily search the internet. They got pictures of you all through here. Everybody in the world knows who you are. Ask brothers who go to the military, who go across the waters. Ask the brothers what the women over there say to them. They'll tell you. And I'm sure the sisters, when they go in that military too, the men over there tell them the same thing. They adore you and just take all your resources and you clap while they take it. You more. Here, no, we can do more. Imagine sisters, imagine a bunch of sisters going up over to Korea, opening up beauty supply spots. They'll be home the next week because they wouldn't support. We don't even we do ourselves in all the time. We go get other people's hair and sew it in our head. What do you think that does to the person? What do you think does to the species when you are connected? The sun hits you. You have a person from God knows where hair in your head. What kind of vibration are you going to be on? I really want to think about that. Just don't blow it off and skate over it like it don't happen. What happens when brothers are walking down the street and their feet are encased in rubber shoes? How are they connected to the planet? These are questions. These are sites that we're going to have to start putting in our children's minds because they are America. And when we teach them that they're not America, we remove them psychologically from their ancestral homeland and we take a ass kicking for it. I know many of you heard and later for that. So listen, can't keep looking at as you 5,000 miles across the pond because you're not. Because when you're doing that, that allows other people to come over here and take what you're not paying attention to because you're too busy looking across the water. And your people left a kick-ass legacy for you. But we turn our backs on it. We dog each other out. because we want to put somebody's we want to pump somebody else's religion. Really? You take a religion that they were running away from? Are you crazy? Yeah. So that's called menticide. So find out who your family is. Find out who your family is. You have, so everybody has a historian in their family. Everybody has a historian in their family. Now, you guys might not like them, you guys, because of what they say, but go get some information from them, and you'll see. You'll see that sisters wasn't no slaves until brothers sold them out. So what you're seeing now is a remnant of what's that went on in the first. What happened when they came over here? Or you can look at what happened today and trace it back. You have to think, though. You have to think. You have to think. You got to think about it. Because, like I said, if we not thinking, somebody else gonna be thinking for us. And I know you. I know you see it. I know you see it. I know you see it. And if we're going to break this chain of this happening, we're going to have to start thinking different. We're going to have to start speaking different. All that, that my boo. Now that bullshit got to go. You can start speaking straight, because that's what's going to keep us here a lot longer. Because lying is the order. Bullshitting is the order for the so-called African Americans. Why? Because you're in somebody else's paradigm. They're taking up all the resources. They're taking up all your resources. You don't even claim your resources. You claim African resources. And when you go claim Africa's resources, guess what they're going to do to you? They're going to tell you that's the Chinese. That's massive stuff. You are to this. You are to this planet what a bird is, what a deer is, what a bear is, what a lizard is. When the birds fly south for the winter, when the bird that changes the whole complexion of the planet. We have that same power too, if we just used it. If we thought we was part of the planet, but we think we're a character in somebody else's mind, and we do. We think we're what somebody else created. And remember this: all creations come with instructions. So that's why you can see 30 years ago, Latasha Harlins, the Korean lady in LA, shot Latasha Harlins in the back of the head. 30 years later, Negroes going to the Koreans. How much money from that time that Latasha Harlins got shot to right now? How much money do you think the African Americans spent in Korean beauty shops? How many pairs of shoes do you think we bought from Asian markets? And you're the minority. And I'm sorry, and you're the majority. We'll talk about that next time. How can you be the minority? Where do you go in the world? Where do you go in the world? And the indigenous people are the minority. From 10% of people on the planet, the 10% population of the world comes to your country and they're the majority. That's how they keep your mind small. Whatever you say, boss, that's what I'm telling you. It's about 97, 98% of African Americans think like this. I mean, they don't think. They look to boss to see what boss gonna say. Then whatever boss say, they say. Isn't that how it is? I mean, didn't Negroes just get filled off of ribs and stuff for the 4th? You know, come on. How much you think, how much financial energy did we put in buying fireworks? I'm talking about from all over the United States. That right there, what we spent, probably could have ran a school system for us for 3 or 4 years. That's where our priorities are. That's what we do. So, are we going to keep doing that? Are we going to keep? Are we just going to keep saying, "Oh, well, this just how it is"? I suggest that we make a serious about face and examine what we are doing, examine what we're bringing to our children, examine what we're thinking, examine what comes across these news feeds every day as information, because we're not going out like this. I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight to share that little bit with you. Think about when people say something, tell you something. Remember, Gladys Knight said, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. Have to start going inside, guys. Start asking yourself questions. Start asking yourself questions and start answering them. You can talk to yourself. Talking to yourself is fine. Makes you feel much better. Know just where to draw the line. See, you used to have artists that would tell you stuff, give you the hints. They cut that out real quick. Ask yourself questions and figure it out. That's all it takes. You don't have to ask nobody else. You can talk to some other brothers and see what they think and brush your ideas off of theirs ideas. But if somebody is just dictating to you what something is, you're dumb. They're telling you what to do. All animals, all species have to look out and make sure the species survives. We have to make sure we're surviving. We have to make sure we're around. And if you look at where we're going now, what we're doing now, and how it looks, I'm talking about reality. I'm not talking about feelings or nothing like that. I'm talking about reality. How does it look? So I want to say thank you guys for joining me tonight. Um, African Americans Ain't Africans ebook. There's a lot of family reunions going around this summer. Get an ebook. Let's show them how. Show them. All you got to do is find out where your people from. Names of the towns are probably named after them. It's probably named after them, especially in the Southeast corridor. And I would implore the people who are listening from Chicago, Detroit, LA, uh, New York, a lot of the northern cities, a lot of those places opened up jobs and stuff for a lot of our people to flee to, and they left the South, and they're never coming back. Find out who your people are, because they probably left you land and a trust down there, and you don't know it because you've been converted to African, so you have nothing to do with Mississippi and Alabama, Georgia. Ashamed of it. But you think the foreigners are ashamed of it? And Alabama and Mississippi and Alabama, beautiful country. Alabama, check this out. Alabama is on the back of the Appalachian Mountains and it's going to the Gulf Coast. The trip part about Alabama is not flat land, it's going at an angle. It's like a mountain going down in the water. That's what them lakes and rivers and streams do. That's where how we can get water and start supplying ourselves water from the earth. But we don't think it's ours. We don't think we supposed to put our hands on it. And it's not going to take an organization. It's going to take like that old Public Enemy album. It takes a nation of millions. This is why we can't be stupid. We can't be stupid and mad, always mad. Always, but you ain't always mad at me, but you ain't never mad at nobody else. The people that dog you out the most, you just lick them in the mouth. So teach your children something other than how to work a remote control for the TV. Seriously, because we gonna need help. We gonna need help, and the people that should be helping are not. So check out our group. We have a cold group, African Americans Ain't Africans, on Facebook. If you one of them crybabies, you can't defend what you say because we let you in. But if you say something, we just want you to explain it. So if you say you're a Hebrew Israelite, we just want to know, how did Hebrews get over here? How did you get from the Middle East, from a desert over to the lush of forest in America and survive? How did that happen? And have them answer the question. Ask anybody who tells you that. How was that? What was the spiritual practices of the people who were here? See, these places weren't called Alabama then. These places weren't called Florida then. This is what the colonizers gave them. What did you call them? What was your outlook on the world? How did you see it? And the only way you're going to see it like that if you get back on the land and start doing what you're supposed to do. So that's what I wanted to share tonight. Everybody have a good weekend. I hope it's not too hot where you guys are, but if it is, take your clothes off. Make yourself comfortable. You can do it. You've done it before. Until next time, peace.